and welcome to the Your Food Matters podcast. I'm Dr. Susan Kleiner, and I'm here with Eric Bustillo. And we are going to chat today about how to help you put your food to work for you. So I'm going to just turn it right over to Eric because he's been quiet, and I'll let him say a few words.
What's happening, everybody? Dr. Sue, thank you very much. Thank you all for tuning in. I do think it's important for you guys to know, if you want to learn a lot of detail about us in a little bit of time, check out our first episode, our first podcast. We go into some detail there. Although, I gotta say, Dr. Sue has such a history that I think one day we're gonna have like a long episode just about everything that you've achieved and accomplished and all of that. So we'll have fun with that one day.
So our topic today, as Eric and I sort of, shoot spitballs with each other and try and figure out, there are so many hundreds of thousands of topics when we think about food and nutrition, performance and health. The one that came really top of mind that is very often an issue that both of us discuss, whether we're working one-on-one with individuals, whether we're working with teams, giving talks, or even when I consult with business and industry, is alcohol. That's a very hot topic. And so today we thought we'd begin the conversation. We said, oh my goodness, we could do 5 episodes just on alcohol alone, but we're going to just start talking and see where it goes. So Eric, take us away.
For sure. Alcohol it's something that it's an important topic. I find myself talking about it a lot with patients, clients, when I do workshops, seminars, conferences. It's just, I think that there's a large misconception around alcohol. I think that there has been a lot of information put out where people believe that there are health benefits associated with alcohol, and then of course we have on the other end of that where alcohol is the worst thing possible for us, and I think like with most things the answer is going to be somewhere in the middle-ish. And now I'm a little bit biased here, mostly because I understand the social component of alcohol. At the same time, I'm a firm believer that we can train ourselves to do just about anything. And now, of course, the caveat here, there are individuals with addictive personalities and that have a history of addiction in their family. So I understand that is something that's very serious. So outside of that, the individuals who maybe just feel the societal pressures to consume alcohol on a very regular basis, this is warning, rabbit hole coming in. This is one of those things that there are so many societal pressures on many different things. You see a lot of it on social media, but when it comes to alcohol, imagine, it's taboo, right? When you're a kid, you can't have alcohol until you're 21, and alcohol is associated with partying and having fun and all these fun things. So there's a certain societal pressure, maybe even from when we're young, and especially as we get older, when you get into college, in many cases when you're in high school, drinking is the cool thing, maybe because it is taboo. But then when we progress, it starts turning into, hey, let's go to happy hour. And what does happy hour involve? Well, it's going to be drinks, not just regular drinks, discounted drinks, so you can get more, right? More bang for your buck.
And it's even called happy hour. Like, if you don't go, you're unhappy.
So it's like, it's the push. And now, to throw this out there, I understand the association, right? I know that getting together, food is such an important part of cultures and ethnicities and how we feel. So we break bread with people that we enjoy being with and all of that. And alcohol is oftentimes a part of that. The issue or the problem is the overconsumption. We know moderation is extremely important. All foods fit, and so on and so forth. Um, but if we stop and think about how I I think that we have just normalized, maybe even over. We've made it too normal. We've normalized the over consumption of alcohol, and that is a big issue because we think that, hey, it's okay. Hey, you have to drink. Oh, hey, what's wrong with you? You're not drinking. Like,
Mhm.
I've had people tell me this before. Patients, clients, even people on social media, just say, imagine someone having a heroin problem, and they're not saying, hey, what's going on? You're not doing heroin today or something like that. Obviously, alcohol is much more socially accepted and all of that's more a part of the culture. But it's a drug at the end of the day. It's a toxin, and it has negative impacts on our health. Even if people have been told there's resveratrol in wine, the heart benefits. The American Heart Association says 2 drinks for men and 1 drink for women, even if it's every day. So there's all of these twists and turns when in reality, we can have a much more straightforward conversation and talk about why is someone drinking, the overconsumption of it. So many stories about I get home and I just want to have that glass of wine. Have we stopped to think about why? What are we doing here to kind of work on that or improve this habit that we've really built?
So let's talk about, and that's so true. Let's talk about what it really does to us. And, we know that just the fact is, alcohol is a central nervous system depressant. So it's going to slow things down, lower your mood, lessen your sense of energy, mental energy, focus, certainly eye hand coordination, um, all kinds of things that are just obvious. Like, why should you not drink and drive, right? That just, and so in today's society, especially, I would say post COVID, but certainly has been an issue forever, are people who have social anxiety, which has really risen over the past couple of years because you kind of got out of practice of being in a social setting. Well, if I have a drink or two, I'll relax, I'll be able to be more fun, I'll be able to fit in with the crowd better. As you're saying, that kind of social pressure, but it's not always necessarily from others. It's also in our own heads, right? When we're trying to figure out how can we relax and enjoy ourselves. Um, that, as you said, it can become a crutch. You can become habituated to it, and so what's the problem with that? If you think that you're having more fun, and the problem is that it if 1 drink, um, if you are a woman, for instance, when we talk about health issues, and you have maybe an increased risk of breast cancer, and you don't know it, but you're having a drink every day. Well, the data are showing that that could markedly increase your risk of developing breast cancer. There are other issues as well, but just to begin with, what you know at 20 years old about your health risks might be dramatically different than what you know at 40 or 50. And what if you would have made different choices if someone would have just informed you, if you just had the information? And so, a little bit, what I'd love to do is just kind of go down the list of what are the risks of drinking, even moderately, but certainly, um, more than more than what is moderate, and and start to think about, well, if alcohol isn't such a health beverage, are there better choices that I could make? For instance, could I go for some cognitive behavioral therapy to help me understand and develop different skills to be able to be more comfortable in a social setting? Could I, if I don't know how to relax when I get home, maybe I should take a yoga class. I mean, there's what are your other options when you start to understand that alcohol maybe isn't an innocuous choice?
Definitely, and the conversation has to start with there are other choices. You don't need this to be a better you. You know, maybe it helps you feel comfortable in certain situations, but sometimes we just got to do the inner work, you know?
Yeah, and so just a little bit of history. Um, Probably, about 30 years ago, the beverage industry started to do research to, and in, not surprisingly, most alcoholic beverages start from plants, right? So certainly wine is kind of an extract of grapes. And so, will there be healthy things in that beverage that is a plant rich extract? Of course. And so they did a lot of research, but it wasn't necessarily in a university setting. And when research is done in private clinical laboratories, whatever the brand is, the corporation, whoever is paying for that research, they own that data. This is really important to understand. And so there's no obligation to publish results that reflect negatively on the product. And so all we saw for at least a decade or more was all this positive health data about alcoholic beverages. It decreases your stress. You can increase your high density lipoprotein, so it must be good for your heart. As you said, resveratrol, this anti-aging component that you find in wine, all this great stuff until the government started paying for research, and it was in university laboratory settings where it's required to publish whatever the findings are from the studies. And all of a sudden, lo and behold, there was all this research coming out about the health risks of over drinking, for sure, but also even what in some cases, as I said, is considered moderate. And then in our little niche neck of the woods, the impact on exercise and exercise performance is profound. So if you have big goals, alcohol is not going to get you there.
Mm-mm. No way. Because think about, from a performance standpoint, certain things that we might see from a negative aspect, potential negative impacts on certain biomarkers, particularly certain hormones, um, and alcohol being a depressant. So, how does this impact your mood? Heart rate variability being affected as well, which can have an impact on our recovery. So now, if I'm trying to be as fit as I possibly can be, or if I'm working with someone who's trying to be as fit as they possibly can be, binge drinking is most certainly not going to be a part of that plan. We'll find a way, if someone really wants to incorporate alcohol in some way, shape, or form. I'm a firm believer in moderation, that's for sure. But everyone's moderation is going to be different. Is it a man? Is it a woman? What's their size? What's their history of drinking? And all of these different things. But we have to understand that from a performance standpoint, there really isn't going to be, long term, there's not going to be anything beneficial.
Right? And off the top, so it's dehydrating. Just off the top, nothing's more important for you to support performance than good hydration.
Yep.
Alcohol is burned preferentially as a fuel in your body. And so if you want to be, doing a high intensity exercise after you've had a drink or two, you can't get to your carbohydrate to burn it. You're going to burn alcohol first. It also will impede muscle protein synthesis. And so this is a great story that I remember from a long time ago. So Dr. Bill Evans, who was at Tufts University, a brilliant exercise physiologist and scientist, he was consulting with the Boston Bruins. And this is way back in the early days of sports nutrition. And he was very early on. And he was brought on to try and help the hockey players. If you're not familiar with who the Boston Bruins are, they're a very, very famous hockey team. And they brought him on. Is there anything we can do to try and improve their nutrition to enhance performance? And so he watched what everybody was doing, and he watched what happened with the team at the end of the games. And that was the beginning of our understanding that recovery nutrition was actually a thing. okay? And that after exercise, if you consumed protein with carbohydrate together, you would increase anabolism, you would enhance muscle protein synthesis, you would decrease muscle protein breakdown, and you could enhance your glycogen replenishment, meaning that you could work out harder, longer, sooner the next day or later that day. So he watched these guys, and at the end of the hockey game, they would run out of the locker room as fast as possible, nothing to eat, go right to the bar, and they were drinking dinner basically. And so they put it in the contract, and this is, I don't think this is apocryphal. I think, because I heard this from a presentation by Dr. Evans many years ago. He said they put it in the contract. They made them a post game recovery beverage, protein and carb, that they had to drink before they left the locker room, because he knew that if they didn't have that, they were definitely not going to be able to do well either at practice, or certainly if they had days of game after game. So it's really a serious issue when you go out drinking and partying post game or post match, when you haven't nourished yourself first. And then once you start to drink, your inhibitions go down. Whatever you planned on doing typically doesn't happen. And so your plan goes out the window and you keep drinking, and so you will be much more sore the next day. You won't have recovered well. You certainly won't sleep well. We know how impactful it is. You may pass out, but you'll wake up in the middle of the night unless you've really had too much. um, yeah, we hope you wake up. And
Hopefully. Yeah.
but if you wake up, it disturbs that time during sleep when you get real recovery. And so for an athlete, can you drink? Is it going to affect, are the calories going to impact if you lose weight? Calories are calories, right? But are you going to throw your plan out the window? Are you going to stick to what your plan was? Are you going to sleep well, which will impact all? I mean, there's so many things. Your training is going to be in the toilet the next day. You may not even get out of bed. There's so many issues for someone who wants to be active, fit, and really, push out the walls of performance.
For sure. So then I think it's always important to ask, our athletes or just avid exercisers, right? Which I consider them athletes also. What's the why? Why do I do what I do? And if the idea is to optimize either performance and or health, how does alcohol fit into that? Specifically talking about alcohol, why do I feel this need or urge to consume alcohol? Is it the societal pressures? Is it because I absolutely just love alcohol that much? And oftentimes I find that people don't particularly enjoy the taste of alcohol, but they've trained themselves to like it. I think the societal pressure is a big one. And it's important for people to know that there are other options.
Yes.
I mean, you can think, hey, I don't care what anybody says about me, so I'm just going to drink my water. All right, cool. If you can do that, awesome. I know not everyone has that ability, and that's totally fine too. There are plenty of other options out there. Not to say any particular brands or anything, but you'll see the non-alcoholic beer. You'll see de-alcoholized wine as well. These are options for people.
And it's, I mean, I have to say, I do really enjoy the melding of flavors. When you go out and you have, there's certain meals where you just, like, if I'm going to have, if you're in London, or you're going to a British pub, if you're having bangers and mash, you just want a pint, right? I mean, it just, the flavors are made to go together, right? It's lovely. Or, a lovely glass of wine that is paired with the right entree or right food. It is true that if you enjoy the flavors, that it can be initially something that you miss. And so substituting, and it may not be a like for like. you may, if you're really a wine lover, you might not find a wine that's de-alcoholized that you love, but there are these
Sure.
great, what I love, the term spirit-free cocktails. And so there's wonderful uh, flavors and mixtures of botanicals and essences, and bartenders are really getting very creative with new flavors that we've never even had before, that didn't show up in cocktails. They didn't need to be so creative because they depended on the alcohol flavor. And so now I think there's a lot of it's an advantageous time if you want to be low or no alcohol, or alcohol free. I think there's a lot of cool options. I am loving the various fruit beverages that are out there, juice beverages, and things that I never had before, at various restaurants, and even experimenting at home. We have had, can you mix your own parties here, all non-alcoholic. So it really can be fun.
For sure. And just the fact that we have the options to do this. And again, moderation really is a huge factor here when it comes to nutrition and how it impacts you from a food standpoint, from a beverage standpoint. But just knowing that we have those options is huge. So, I think that hopefully that was useful and educational to some extent, because again, there's so much more that we can say about alcohol, and other ways around that, even the psychology behind it and everything. But I think that's it's good to know that we can go alcohol free or lower alcohol and still enjoy ourselves, even if it's just participating in all of that.
And if, for instance, if this conversation just sort of, you know lit a little flame in your brain, and you think, gee, maybe I should think about this, because this is really just the beginning of a much bigger, longer conversation.
Mm-hmm.
um, Look online. There's a lot beyond just dry January. There's a lot of ideas and a lot of conversations on all kinds of platforms online, looking into, your own investigation, options for you when you go out. As I said, creating whole parties around, alcohol free, and finding other people who are like-minded to hang out with. So, yeah, I hope this just gave you a little bit more information than maybe you had before. Eric and I talk about this pretty regularly.
Yeah, very, very often. So
I know you post about it quite a bit.
yeah, it's almost like a war on alcohol. I've had a buddy say that to me before. I'm like, yeah, it kind of is, because it's like the normalization of it is just so in our faces. It's like, let's just talk about what it is, and I enjoy educating on it. So hopefully this was good today, and I'm sure in the future we're gonna have some more alcohol topics to talk about here on Your Food Matters.
For sure. Well, thanks so much. I hope everyone has a great day, or wherever you are, in your morning, afternoon, or evening.
Yeah, enjoying your run while you're listening.
Yep. There you go. There you go. Well, Eric, we'll see you again. And if you enjoyed this, tell your friends, please, to listen to Your Food Matters podcast.